Good evening. Tonight with our visitor or our guest tonight is Miss Leeko. Before we go ahead, I just want to, how do I say it? I would like you to introduce yourself and just tell everybody who's Leeko before we go ahead, because we did say we are in conversation with Leeko Makoene, the CEO of Made with Rural. And yes, so I would just like you to just introduce yourself and say who's Leeko.
Awesome. Hi, Karabo. Thanks for having me on your show. And good evening to your listeners or people that are watching us today. Leeko. Who is Leeko? Just a basic girl, plain Jane, a villager from Makapanstad, which is north of Pretoria. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm very passionate about using agriculture as a tool to transform rural communities. I farm for a living, and I work in a whole lot of like farming activities, like, along the value chain. I'm also a mother to many kids. Between my partner and I, we have 8 kids. So I also run a very busy household, and yeah.
Okay. You mentioned the agricultural value chain and what you are doing, especially with, even though you didn't mention it, with Made It Rural. And you have been in the agricultural space for more than 10 years now. Can you take us through that 10 years and, when you started, how you got into agriculture and the past 10 years?
Okay. So I started in 2010, the excitement of World Cup and all of that. And I found myself and I decided to formally jump ship and go into it. But I grew up among subsistence farmers. I mean, being a villager, you always seeing people around you, or even, you are involved as a child. School holidays were spent in the fields harvesting fruit, especially. My grandparents farmed fruit a lot, and then we'll can it. So I learned, some of those techniques from them growing up. So in 2010, I then decided to formally get into it, and I chose poultry, as my poison. I went to the KZN Poultry Institute to learn a couple of things about it. And, I've always wanted to make a change, not just to get into it for myself. I believed that, I had a higher purpose, why I'm in, I should be involved in the sector. So in poultry, we did a friend of mine and my aunt, we started a cooperative, because back in the days it was like, start a co-op, it would be, easier for you to access funding, and just, to get training and all sorts of things. So we formed ourselves into a cooperative, Tutusa Hatchery, we called ourselves, and then we started with a hatchery in Makapanstad. So I've always wanted to take projects home. So we will, we didn't have our own, what in agriculture they call parent stock. So we had to buy the fertile eggs from somewhere and then bring them into our hatchery and incubate them. So that's where it started. And then we sold day-old chicks, and then the eggs that wouldn't hatch, would then be sold as table eggs. And then I exited the industry in 20. I mean, it was rough. It was bad. It was like, I've never seen anything like it. We thought, bootstrapping this thing shouldn't be difficult. Food is food. People eat all the time. We got very surprised. And then I decided, and then load shedding at the time also started. We didn't have a backup generator. And our eggs will go to waste. They will just basically just rot, in those incubators, and they'll be useless. And those that are in the industry will know just how expensive fertile eggs are. So then I decided 4 years later to exit. Like, no, maybe this is not my thing. Let's go find other things. So I exited, And then I did a whole lot of other things. You know, we all chasing money. This is Joburg, so we came here to make a living, and but I didn't get the satisfaction, you know, that I got when I was doing agric. And then I decided in 2016 to just forget it all and do it for good now and just
Yes.
be smart. If things get tough, I must just find creative ways, you know, to work around the toughness and to innovate and to always just come up with things that will keep me going in the sector.
Okay.
So now I'm into vegetables or horticulture, and I also do a little bit of livestock. I'm learning a lot in that, and processing. So
Yes.
we also, you know, processing and a bit of agritech as well that we've just brought into the stable.
Okay. Phew. You know, I think I love that you are making it clear that getting into agriculture is not something that you just get in because you're unemployed or you're old or you don't have anything to do. This is actually something, it's a very, very difficult space, which takes a very long time. You were there from, for 4 years and you still didn't break even. And you had to actually try other things and then come back and after 2 years and say, now I'm doing this, and you mentioned a bit of Agritech. Can you just maybe tell us a bit about the Agritech that you are currently using? Because also, yeah, people assume gore ke for rona ko metseng fela who can actually do agriculture. So when you mention Agritech, that means that hausa dirisa mogoma, you know, and then everything is fine, or we ira diforonyana tse dinyenyane, Can you just take us a bit into that Agritech?
Yeah. So there are many levels or stages, you know, to introducing tech into your agri business. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go and learn about it from the experts. So I took a trip a couple of years ago, about 8 years ago.
Yes.
I went to Israel, and because for me, it was always like, I pick up a punnet of strawberries at Woolies, and it says it comes from Israel. And it's like,
Yes.
heaven, last
Yeah.
time I checked, this place was a desert,
Yes.
what's going on here? So that fascination got me very curious, or that discovery got me very curious. Then I decided, let me go, So I went and found out for myself. So when I got there, we visited, a couple of places where they were using tech in the way that they farm. And understandably so. So the different levels that I'm talking about in relation to South Africa and also the rural context. I mean, tech is huge. It's big. You know, the corporate guys are doing it at a large scale. But in the spaces where we are in, it really honestly cannot be implemented in that way as yet. But there are just many levels to it. What's immediate to me is an app that we have created, right? So
Yes.
I mean, this app is just to bring the people in remote places closer to what we term civilization,
Yes.
closer to information, because I mean, they're sitting all the way in the rural areas, but yet their products are being consumed and used in the cities. But they don't know the trends, right, that are
Yes.
happening there. So if you give them this tech in their hand, they can then be able to slowly get to know the trends, get to improve the ways, that they are farming, farm a little bit more efficiently. Like you said, let's get the plotonyana anymore, there's actually a ways that can help you improve on your own, because I mean, tech is expensive. Tech is huge and it's expensive. You will need to have the backing of government or of corporates, that can be able to assist you to implement it at a larger scale. But like, things that we now slowly doing in some farms is, moving some of the farmers from planting in the soil to planting hydroponically,
Yes.
yeah, and they can go up, and yes, that can change, the way we do things, but again, it has to be used within a certain context. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Israel can afford to do it at the scale that they are doing it in because they just don't have the land, so they have to
Mm.
go up, so they have
Yes.
to do things that way. But with us, we still have land where we can still plant hydroponically, because it also helps you
Yes.
with a whole lot of soil-borne diseases. You can then count on your yields, especially if you're farming in smaller spaces. You can
Yes.
then improve your yields that way. There are weather stations that can now be put on farms, with
Mm-hmm.
global warming and all those kind of things, and then you can be able to know upfront. I mean, we don't have a facility like I wish we had, but that's something we're
Mm-hmm.
also working on the app, to say, how insurance sends you the alerts that is going to be
Yes.
hailing, cover your crop or whatever, something like that can also start happening. There's also drone technology
Mm.
that's been used in farms. We've been fortunate enough also to be associated, or to be part of an association that can bring such, to the projects that we do, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to see a farm at an aerial view and map it nicely, in preparation for planting and for
Yes.
fertilizing and all those kind of things. So slowly, where we can, we introduce tech, just to improve the way that we farm, so that we can be able to stay competitive, and we can also be able to stay, or to remain sustainable.
You have mentioned so many things. It's like 10 years ago as opposed to now. It's like two different worlds. And, just mentioning even just the drones, which literally blew up, I think about 6 years ago, and which could actually help somebody, Ogodi Budi, who has a similar, how do I say, a similar topography as somebody, and as in Israel. And, they've got a lot of sand, it's very hot, it's very dry, but they can still have those yields, as you were mentioning, that we could use this technology to actually, improve our yield. And you
Yes.
also mentioned soil diseases. How can we use, as you mentioned your app? Can your app assist with actually identifying these soil diseases? Because sometimes I think that when we get in, we see mu, and then we assume we can plant mumu
Yeah,
because
yeah,
mu.
yeah.
How did you test the hore? Does it have, is it acidic? What type of plants could actually grow better in there? How can your app actually assist us, or assist farmers out there, to actually ensure that whatever is out there is actually being, yeah, it's
Okay,
actually
at the moment, our app can't do that. But I
Mhm.
believe there are other apps out there that can be able to assist with the testing of the soil remotely. But at the moment, ours can't do that. Um, what we have, like, or what we've implemented as phase one, is
Mhm.
the marketplace. So it will be
Okay.
your inputs. You can be able to buy your inputs through the app, and you can also be able to sell your crop through
Oh,
the app.
okay.
So those are the only two things that we can be able to do at this stage. But obviously, like I said, tech is very expensive, and if you're doing
Yes.
it from your own pocket, it's
Mhm.
it's even slower. So
Yes.
you are, just you've developed the first phase of it, and by the time you're playing catch up, so by the time you want to move on to second phase, things have changed so much that you have to go and improve on what
Mhm.
you had developed. So
Yes.
so the way that tech is, you need the backing of your government. I mean, places like Israel can quickly move into that space, and leave us way behind, because
Mhm.
I mean, they have the backing of the private sector, they have the backing of government. But yeah,
Mhm.
but at the moment, and I think, what you've raised is a very important point. Soil
Mhm.
is the number one thing that can decide if you're going to win or lose in
Mhm.
agric, and yet it's taken for granted.
Mhm.
That's the number one step, where we all need to make sure that before I put anything into my soil, I need to know what I'm dealing with. I need to check the acidity, you know, like you've mentioned, I need to see what can go in here without really costing me an arm and a leg. Because sometimes, you know, to remedy your soil can also be quite expensive. But there are also, you know, ways that you can slowly do it, and then eventually you improve the health of your soil. It's like your human body, it's like your body. You need to be at a certain pH to function optimally. Soil works the same. So that is very important. And I mean, you go to Israel, they already have things that you can insert in your soil, check different points, and then on the spot you already know, you know, the type of soil that you have. With us, what you can do on the app is you can be able to go in there and book your sample or drop it off at the office, and then we can take it for you to a lab. And then once that analysis come back, we can then be able to interpret those results for you.
Okay. Since I'm a villager, I remember like after, let's say, like right after Hukotuliwa, they would then allow the Komo to actually
Yes,
for
yes,
dire on yeah boloko bonne directly
yes,
mo mmung ro tsa ko sakeng or somewhere else, then the fuller more from that thing. Could that assist actually? Is
yes.
that something that we can still use now, or is it old
No, no,
technology?
no, 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 no. That's why I said we need to use tech in context. You know, you know
Yes.
what I mean.
Yes.
Are we really ready for that financially to
Mhm.
cancel the Homo completely out from accessing our fields and, you know, dumping as they go? Or, you know,
Mhm.
no, we're not yet there. That, you know, we
Mhm.
can forgo that and start introducing other costly things for
Mhm.
Africa at this stage. But that's one of the ways, right, to do it and to just make sure that your soil remains fertile. Although now they will tell you, industry will tell you that's not the way to do it. You need to make sure
Mhm.
that bologo bo compost it first before it
Yes.
goes in. Don't use fresh dung because you don't know
Mhm.
what's in it, in case there are pathogens and whatever not, and then it will affect your crop in the long run. But hey, all because what? All because the seed that we're currently using has been modified, right? So it's
Yes.
not like the seeds that we used in the olden days, where, I
Mhm.
mean, you could take anything. The seed
Yes.
nowadays, it has been scientifically modified. Again, I guess tech at work. So tech can be for good, or sometimes it's not really that good for us. But yeah, so that seed is then you find that it's not compatible to the indigenous methods. It needs you
Yes.
to upgrade yourself to its ways.
Yes, because the saddest part is if you go take your even just to take, even let's say you're trying to balance it out, you can't just balance out your soil or whatever. First, they must go and actually put it together for you so that it goes with the seed. You can't even say no, ke tla itshella 200 milligrams, ke itshelle mole, ke tshele mole. No, you can't. You actually have to go in ba go direla specifically for this seed, for this soil. And
Mm.
does that not cut out a lot of Black people from the market because of such practices, more so rural women?
It does. It does. It does. You know, so that's why, you know, earlier I was very careful on how I said it. That's why I said it's multi-layered. Um,
Yes.
I work in rural communities.
Mhm.
Hydroponics won't work. I will not even go there and promote hydroponics, especially in the villages. Yes,
Yes.
in rural Krugersdorp, that's still okay. But
Mhm.
deep in the villages, I will promote things like, you know, your weather stations to be
Mhm.
put there. I'll promote things like, you know, the app where people can access information, or where they can, I mean, even a simple thing like WhatsApp. We use
Mhm.
video calling on WhatsApp. Someone is video calling us. They are walking their fields. We helping them with scouting. You know, they're showing us their concerns. Maybe there's a leaf of a certain herb or of spinach that they are not happy with. They ask, you know, they show us the brown spots that are on there. They show us a couple of things, you know, whatever they are concerned about on their fields. So simple things like that. Those are things that I believe in rural communities, they can, be used. Obvious data then plays a huge role in how then do we fund people with data. I mean, there are farms where we've funded people with routers, Wi-Fi routers, and some data goes in there every single month. And then we able to use like WhatsApp video with them, walk the fields, show them what scouting is, how they can, scout efficiently, how they can train their staff in checking for different pests and things like that. So simple technology like that, we can just start using it, because also COVID helped, right? It helped a lot because a lot of people couldn't really access farms, like your agronomists that we use. Some of them were working from home, and they couldn't access farms in that way. So that's when we introduced some of this video calling and video training, and then yeah, I mean, the advanced one is, you find that some people are using sensors to
Oh. Okay.
I'm back. I'm back. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what happened
We
there.
lost you at sensors,
Okay,
where
yeah.
you said
So I was
people were
saying, like,
using sensors.
some of the bigger corporate farms will use sensors to test the moisture content, right, in the soil. And then they don't have to water blindly or to water always. Or,
Yes.
the sensor will then tell them which areas needs how much, liters of water at that point, and they're able to then control their costs or water costs like that. So yeah, but then in the rural areas, I mean, to put in sensors, it will cost an arm and a leg.
Yes.
But there are ways, there are ways that we can use. I mean, just using a drip line is better than how it was done before, using the furrow system,
Yes.
because then the
Yes.
drip allows the water to just drip where the plant is,
Yes.
not to
Yes.
water the entire field like a sprinkler will do. So that also has advanced. It's some form of technology. It has gotten us there. In livestock, we've now learned that, I mean, there's a farmer that we're helping with setting up a piggery, or just like slightly changing her piggery to be a little bit more efficient. And
Yes.
we know that, I mean, keeping a male pig or a boar, it's very expensive. It's more expensive than when you have to buy sperm. Today
Yes.
we know that you actually don't have to keep a male around. You can just
Yes.
go to the sperm bank. Sorry for all our male listeners. You can go to
Yes.
the sperm bank and buy that sperm, and then you come and artificially inseminate your pigs. And that can also help you, to introduce new gene pools into your farm or into your flock, and then it can also be able to assist, to keep your costs down when it comes to feeding the male.
Yes.
So we're slowly getting there. I mean, my son is into pigeons, which is also agriculture, right? And they are part of a group or an auction where they just sell each other these pigs online, you know,
Yes.
these pigeons online.
Pigeons.
And
Yes.
yes, and it works. It just works. They all go there, they advertise before, they can tell you, the genes of that pigeon, and they put a picture of it there. Then you are able to see it beforehand, but you don't have to physically, get out of the house and attend an auction somewhere. You can just buy it online, and then there's, the whole transportation of it to your place, which I also
Yes.
thought, wow, this is actually very interesting. Can you imagine? It's something that I'm also learning for my own business. Can you imagine a chef sitting somewhere and, looking at our vegetables like that going on auction? Because currently on the app,
Yes.
you can just look at the veggies and place your order. But imagine if now, there was a live auction every whatever 2 days, a chef wherever sitting can go in there and bid for the best herbs and bid for whatever not, that can also be a game changer. So there are many ways of using technology, and you can also use it, as basic as WhatsApp. You can already, start using it to change your life.
We've been mentioning the app. We keep saying the app, but we're not saying the name of the app. Can we kindly just,
Okay.
put
There's
the name of the app?
Okay, there's two apps. The one app is called Kula. It's the Kula app. And then the other app is called Pocket Crop. So Pocket Crop, we piloting internally, like with the farmers in our network and also the clients in our network. It will only be open to the public at a later stage, hopefully just after June. Yeah, but at the moment we're just piloting it with it's really things that we have been doing manually, because we aggregate crops from different farms. So we've been doing that manually. There's a whole lot of things that come into play, like traceability. So we've just been building, all these other features onto it before we can then open it up. Yeah, but with the Kula app, it's an app. It's access. You can get it on iOS. You can, also get it on Android. But it's mainly for farmers, but also for clients. They can go on there, download it, and be able to buy produce. And then for farmers, they will be able to sell their produce. There's also like a chat room where you can also go in and talk about whatever farming, learn about different things. There's other farmers on the platform that you can chat with, and then you can also be able to buy your inputs. So whether it's a greenhouse that you need, you can be able to go on there. It's expertise that you need. It's fertilizers, all those kind of things. You can go on the app and be able to buy from there.
Okay. You mentioned something that we have a problem with. We a country that has a lot of people go to bed hungry, but at the same time, we're the same country that has a lot of wastage. And you mentioned the linkage between the farm that, possibly even using Pocket app, but even with Kula app, where a chef can actually look at what is available there and actually buy exactly what they need. If they have a good stockage type of thing, to say that if we're going to, we know on aggregate we use 200 tomatoes in the kitchen, slow week or a fast week. This is our average. And then you can actually order directly from the farmers or connect with the farmers through the Kula app, and then they actually assist that. Is there a way that we can actually, I don't know how to say this, make it more accessible to more people, so that we also have this balance to say we can't have, in restaurants, especially because they throw away, what sometimes call the ugly veggies, or sometimes even just because, a tomato
they don't even get to the restaurants. They don't even want to see them. But I get what you say.
Tomatoes lifespan is this long. If it's, after you pick it, it has a specific lifespan, and it can't go into a salad once it goes beyond that. That if you have such a situation where you could link farmers immediately with restaurants, and also even to, soup kitchens, to say, we know that if we don't sell, we can give it to you on discount, or even to, the school feeding schemes. Not that they're bad things, but it's just that it's beyond the restaurant,
so-called standard, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's a topic I'm very passionate about, and that's something that I've actually taken my time. I've decided, you know what, I'm going to take my time to learn the industry and to be able to launch a product or a service that's going to be long lasting, that's going to be very sustainable when it comes to ugly vegetables and fruit, right? So our next project, which is launching somewhere, after June, July, thereabout, is that, it's something that I mean, currently, if the farmers that we work with, we can only be able to buy 50 to 60% of their produce, which is, to me, it's worrying, but that's what the current system dictates. And that's what we've then decided. Yes, we've learned a lot about the current way of doing things. We now want to do a parallel way where it can just be democratized. It can just be available to all LSMs. It is food,
Yes.
for heaven's sake, it is food. So even if you get that ugly looking tomato, you're going to chop it up or you're going to grate it and you're going to make gravy. The gravy is not going to be
Yes.
sitting in the pot smiling and said, look at me, I'm the cutest tomato ever. I
Yes,
had
I
dimples
agree.
before they grated me, and I had, whatever, high cheekbones and whatever. Not, it's not going to say that. It's just going to say I'm a tomato. Whether it's a tomato paste, and the funny thing is, once you chop it, all of a sudden it starts having more value than in here and do as we are asking them. So we're asking these people to look at a cherry tomato, that's looking perfect to their eye, and check it out, because
Yes.
it's a centimeter bigger, like it just doesn't make sense. And yet they're gonna go back to a home where they're
Without
just gonna have pap and bread or pap and. So those are some of the things that really are very challenging with the industry that we work in. But we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot. That's why now we're very confident going forward that the next project that we're going to launch, be it on the app, be it in our physical store, it's going to be a very mind-blowing project. It's going to be a project that says food for all, food for all. Whether you haven't tasted a blueberry in your life, or a strawberry, or a gooseberry, or whatever, now you can come here and be able to taste it. Whether, I mean, that's something that we don't do in our country. In our country, we just say, here's a punnet of strawberries. It costs 50 rand. Either you have 50 rand or you don't. And if you
Yes.
don't have it, then sorry for you, you can't have the strawberries. But now, if you had loose strawberries there, and even if I have 5 rands, I can be able to weigh 2 or 3 of them and go home. At least I would have tasted, a strawberry. I would have had access to a whole lot, a range, a variety of vegetables and fruit, unlike now. What you see, actually, I always see what you see at the street corners, in the townships, in the rural areas, tse di rekisiwang ke bomme, Mam Dlamini Uduzi on the side of the road selling that. That alone should inform you of the state of things in South Africa when it comes to fresh produce. That little
Yes.
hawker stall there, it's saying to you, these 5, I mean, you will never miss carrot, what you call it, tomato there, onion there,
Cabbage.
potato there, cabbage, spinach. You will never miss those things. So it already tells you that we are limited to those things. And then banana and apple. What
Yes.
about grapes? What about strawberries? What about, like, why can't we also take such things to our people? Why are we making them exclusive to your Hyde Parks, to your Woolies, to your suburbs? Why? So as farmers, we know that there are different grades if you can call it that, of fruit and vegetables, on the farm. So, I mean, those things can be given or sold to different LSM at different prices. But I don't know what's happening. It's just not being done.
Yeah. As you're talking about, maybe we need to rethink even how, when we're looking at social security, how we actually think about it. As you say, I go to Pick and Pay, and then I buy, whether I get a grant or I am employed, I'm gonna buy tomatoes at the same price as somebody, and they not. Ooh,
Oops. Hi. Oh my gosh, I've lost you.
Okay.
Okay, you're back. I
Okay,
lost you there.
sorry about that.
No problem.
My battery died, unfortunately,
Oh,
and I was not
shoot.
even yeah, I was not even aware that it's gonna die. As I
Oops.
was
I
trying
must charge
to
mine. Yeah.
yeah, but at least now we are going towards wrapping up. As we were just saying
Okay.
now that with the different LSMs and even our social protection, that we should actually enable somebody who does not afford to actually have more, what's going on, more options.
Exactly.
Yes, and if you have more options, at least then we can actually make sure that we actually we have food security, and we do talk about food security, but then what type of food security are we really talking about? Is it something that we say as with true understanding of what is food security, or we just say it because it can be said, but then I also wanted to actually talk about something. Your son, you mentioned him and what he does with the pigeons.
Yeah.
How did he even know that you can farm with with pigeons? Let's start there.
Eish, these kids. Well, it actually it's something that he got exposed to when he was very young, by chance.
Mhm,
He
mhm,
had visited my parents in Rustenburg, and their neighbor had
mhm,
pigeons, and so he liked playing with the neighbor's son.
mhm,
So these kids, they'll wake up very early to go play with their friends. But what I
mhm,
liked about the guy, he's like me. You don't just wake up and run off and go and play. You have to do
mhm,
stuff, around the house, some chores.
mhm,
So the friend's father was the same. So he said, no, there's no running off quickly. You need to clean the loft, the pigeon house, right?
mhm,
So you need to clean the loft first before you can go and play. And then because the friend wanted, them to go play, he quickly had to
mhm,
help him clean the loft, and then they can
mhm,
quickly go. So then he got very intrigued and fascinated by
mhm,
these birds. Like, wow! So this guy can actually open for these things. They go, they circle around the roof, and then they fly
mhm,
away, and then they come back, and then they can go
mhm.
straight inside their thing. Like, how does
Yeah.
that work? How can you train them to be like that? So
Mhm,
but by then I was very tired with him. Every other
mhm,
month there was something new he wanted to do. He wanted to play golf, he wanted to play karate, he wanted to do cricket, all these kind of things. And we ended up buying him the kit, for every sport. So I then
mhm,
decided, you know what, if you're serious about this next project, it's on you, right?
mhm,
You drive it, you raise money for yourself, you make sure that, then once I see that you are serious, I can then,
mhm,
help you out. So I
mhm,
guess that also helped him, because then he had to be hands-on. He had to go and research. He was a very shy boy growing up. So he had to come out of his shyness and start approaching people, asking them to mentor him, asking to visit their lofts, and that's when he also got exposed to the harshness of the industry. That sometimes I'll be sitting in meetings and I'll just, it would just be, or presentations, it would just be done in Afrikaans, and he didn't do Afrikaans at school. Like, it's like, and he can't hear, he must just, wait for like a slide with a picture, and then then he gets what they are now talking about, and things like that. So and then he started then building a brand around it. And I guess then he's my son, right? Because he's also very passionate about community development. And now he's taking these lofts. He's got something called the community lofts. So he's taking these lofts into communities, because he's realized that the sport is still very lily white. The sport is still very Afrikaans, So he's and old, because it's mainly, it's like farming. It's mainly your old people that are still in it, and the young people are not exposed to, you get people in the townships who keep pigeons, but they don't do it like the racing community does it, where the breeds, you have to cull the weaker ones because they're just eating. With us it's like, and that's wow, but for them, they have to look at the wings. Is this thing a long distance racer or a short distance one? What breed it is, where does it come from? Also, the genetics of it, the diet, the nutrition, those kind of things. So that's where he's at now, to say, educating, the young people. It's like going, there's something called the $1 million race that happens. Even our president is part of that. The Queen of England is part of that. But a lot of people don't know about it. It's like the coaches that go into rural areas to look for someone, a good soccer player that they can recruit. So you can only go in there and expose people, to swimming, to find the best swimmer. Maybe we have best swimmers sitting in townships, sitting in rural areas, but they are not exposed to the sport, so we can't get them. So he always says there's a whole lot of $1 million race winners, sitting out there, but they haven't been exposed, to the sport. So they haven't, to the many facets of it. So it can be the breeding, it can be the flying itself, it can be the fanciers. They call themselves fanciers. Your job is just to take care of lofts. There are people that are known in that community that they are the best breeders, and there are people that are known to be the best caretakers, people that are known to mix the best nutrition. There's the vets, there's nutritionalists, there's a whole lot of careers also, that happens in that pigeon space. So yeah, he's Mr. Pigeons. He loves it, and he's taking it out there and teaching more youngsters about it.
When you're talking, and it's a conversation we've had on the side about the unemployment and the frustration. Over 100 jobs by just actually making sure that you create and expose to the market. Because we have a family meeting at 8, I want you to just maybe talk, because you haven't really talked about Made Rural. You have kind of gave us a summary. I'd want you to summarize it and say, this is how we connect with farmers at the ground, and how can we bring more people in? And as you said, now it's a matter of, even now on Facebook, you have actually given out so much information, and you've given somebody food for thought in terms of what could be done. But I just want you to actually just wrap it up and say, this is how we're going forward.
So you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. So made with raw. Made with Rural is a platform, right? It's a platform that was started by farmers. I'm a farmer myself, and I've seen the challenges, right, in the industry or in the sector. So we are a platform that aggregates produce from farmers, and by just being aggregators, we are then, compelled to do a whole lot of other things to make sure that the produce that we aggregate is what is needed or what meets the certain standards in the industry. So on the left-hand side, we have the demand side. On the right-hand side, we have the supply side. So we make sure that, we bring both sides together to understand each other and to also, have a way of doing business with each other. So there's the formal sector, there's the informal sector. The way that a farmer will deal with the formal sector is very different to how they will deal with an informal sector. So as a platform, we make sure that, we have, on the supply side, we have a network of farmers, and then, farmers have struggled enough. They invest a lot of money to buy inputs, and sometimes they don't have markets. Or sometimes, their markets just don't take the produce that they have grown for one or two other reasons. So we come in there to make sure that, they plant what the market demands in quantities that the market wants, so that they can also avoid, waste, and they can also avoid waste of product and of money, right? And then on the on the demand side, which is the market, we help them understand the rural farmer better, to understand how to do business with a black farmer. You can't buy from them and make them wait for weeks on end or even months before you pay them. So it's that, we educate as well on both sides to say, this is how you procure from a black farmer. You're not going to find a Leeko or, a Karabo in Dunokana that's going to be able to give you 50 tons of tomatoes per month. It's not going to work. So we set up hubs in rural communities, or on Karabo's farm. We will set up a hub, and the smaller farmers around Karabo will then be able to deliver to that farm or to add to Karabo's basket. And then in that way, we can make, the bigger order quantities. And in that way, we stand a chance, to
I think Leeko is just still buffering, but she will be back just now.
Okay, I am back. Yeah.
I think she is coming back.
I'm back.
She is coming
Yeah.
back.
So yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you back.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what the platform does. So as much as we work with both the client and the farmer, my client knows, I always tell them, I work for farmers. As much as I also go and represent you on the other side to tell farmers about, how you do things, what the trends are. I work for farmers, so the deals that we go in, they have to be win-win deals, and they have to be deals that are also going to empower the type of a farmer that you're sourcing the produce from. So it's a changing lives platform. It's a platform that says, yes, you can farm and sell, but that's just not the end of it. We're interested also in growing you as a farmer. We're interested in, growing your farm and, leaving you sustainable. The day that you decide, I'm leaving the network, I'm going to do my own thing, you are empowered, you are connected, you can be able to stand on your own 2 feet. But the platform exists for people to be able to, come together and protect what they have. You don't want to be a one-hit wonder. Today, you can give us 10 tons of tomatoes. Tomorrow, you are out. If you are part of a network, if you are out, Karabo can come in for you. Leeko can come in for you. So you are part of a larger group that contributes to that basket. And when we're selling to a customer, we are selling as one. So if we had promised you 10 tons of tomatoes and we can only give you 8 tons, it's better than nothing. You are going to keep us in the loop. Unlike if you were selling as Karabo directly to one place, and when you are out, you can be hit by frost, you can be hit by hail, you can be hit by a pest. And when you are out, and they forget about you, and you're only going to recover after 3-4 months, you see. So that's one of the of the benefits of belonging to a network
And it
and to a
also
platform that can assist in those ways.
yeah, and I guess it also helps with staggered farming, so that I know, as you mentioning, that if you actually using the app, you know how much yield you're going to get. So we know for April we're getting the yield from Karabo. In May we're getting the yield from Leeko, because also we are also keeping tabs. We have La Nina right now. We already know that we're gonna, for example, tomatoes, we're gonna have lesser produce because they can't stand water. But at least by this time, at least I'll get the yield from the person in the network who will actually be able to supplement what I need to be actually be selling at that time.
100%.
So what is the way forward? Agritech, Cooler app, and we are definitely going to have you back on after June, July to actually tell us more now, when Pocket Crop is now live, so that you give us more information on Pocket Crop. But what is the way forward? How should a farmer in Jonathan, just on the outskirts of Makapan, start? How can they actually get in touch? Or somebody in Dipudi in Khanyesa, how can they get in touch, and what is the way forward?
Yeah, so we are just made with rural, guys. We don't overwhelm us too much. We don't have funding from a whole lot of places. So we can only be in limited areas at the moment. We can only be where the market is. So currently Limpopo, we're very active. We're active in Gauteng. So they can go on our website. They can go on Made with Rural, www.madewithrural.farm, or they can send an email to info@madewithrural.farm. Our details, our office details are on there. They can pop in. They can pop in the office in Talton at any time. There's always people there. There's always agronomists there. A whole lot of people are always on site to give information. And Kula has started also setting up kiosks in different places. The first kiosk was launched next to Jonathan in Winterfeld. There's help there for farmers. Farmers can be able to walk into the Kula kiosk, and they can actually also be able to get fertilizer or whatever chemicals that they need. There's someone, an experienced farmer running the kiosk, that can be able to give them advice. So many of these kiosks are also going to be rolling out as we go in different parts of the country. Made with Rural is also rolling out later in the year with hubs. So we're starting in the Hammanskraal area. We're going to Rustenburg as well, in KZN, in Western Cape, where we're rolling out these hubs where farmers can then be able to, come together as a network and buy inputs together and also sell produce as a group. So that's what we're promoting. The way forward is, group yourselves. Where there's a group, it's easier for us to come and be able to offer a market or be able to offtake product from. So if farmers can start grouping themselves, that will work, because then you can access discounts if you buy as a group, from smaller stock files of farmers wherever you are. And then with those stock files, you can be able to buy together, like we buy groceries, we buy alcohol. Now let's go and buy seeds, let's buy seedlings, let's buy fertilizers, and then we can also be able to sell the produce once it's ready as a group. It makes sense for Made with Rural to send a truck to an area where we can come back full than to just go to one farm.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We will definitely have you back. There is so many other questions. I can see other people are starting to ask questions, and I know that you will go in and respond. I will also try and respond, and just in preparation. And thank you very much for breaking the bias in the agricultural space. and being that face of breaking the bias as we continue to celebrate International Women's Month. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Karabo. Let's go listen to the president.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.